Namaste, everyone. Welcome to Sannidhi Yoga. This is our very first podcast. I'm your host and host, Anandhi Mary Cecil, and we are so blessed to have with us our beloved Dr. Ananda Balayogi Bhavanani. Welcome to you, Guruji.
Namaste, Anandi. Such a pleasure to be with you and looking forward to a wonderful discussion and conversation.
The topic we want to discuss today is, can yoga become our best friend and companion? What would be your suggestion on this, Guruji?
You see, many people think of yoga as just the technique. Many people think of yoga as just the philosophy. But yoga is actually life. And as Sri Aurobindo would say, all life is yoga. And as Swami Geetananda Giri would say, yoga is a conscious and mindful way of life. So when yoga is life and we are a living being, we and yoga are having a close relationship right from our very first breath till that very last breath. So who is the companion who is with us from the first breath to the last? Life. What is life? Yoga. And isn't that a definition of a best friend? Someone who is both a friend in need and a friend indeed. So yes, yoga is our best friend because it is our constant companion in the highs and the lows, in those moments where you are at the peaks and in those moments where you are in the wells of despair. Yoga is always there for us, just like a good friend should be. But I thought I should ask you a question here, Anandi. In your own personal journey of yoga over the last many decades, at which point did yoga change from being something you do to feeling like a friend who was with you on this journey?
Thank you so much, Guruji, for that question. I'll just go back to my childhood. I was a single child, and if people who know me would know that I was a certified classical dancer, performed a lot on stage. And for me, being a single child, whenever, I needed something to hold on to, it used to be my dance. Coming forward so many years, I had two very difficult pregnancies and a lot of life-threatening health conditions. And I was honestly blessed because at that point, I didn't find yoga. Yoga found me. Definitely, my first class, I still remember, where the teacher told me that, instead of teaching asana and stuff which we normally see today, my teacher then, some 30 years ago, told me that you need to learn to breathe. And that struck me because, am I not breathing? Am I not alive? What is this person saying? Today, after 3 decades of practice, sadhana, I actually still am trying to understand the meaning of that term, learn to breathe. Breath is our closest friend, our closest companion. And if we, just go a little deeper, we see that when we become angry, the breath becomes short. When we are happy or when we are relaxed, the breath is elongated.
So true.
And it is through that breath that I found that companion, that true friend in my yoga. So whenever, I see that my mind is disturbed, I go back to that friend of mine, which is my breath.
Wow, I think that really resonates because that first breath of life is where the Atma comes into us and we become that Jivatma, that individual who is the Pinda connected to the Anda. And so the moment we start to connect with our breath, and this is one of the greatest aspects of yoga. People often think of it as asana, but pranayama and that experience of the prana, it so connects us with ourselves.
Absolutely. And, Guruji, what we are trying to speak about, I would want you to delve a little more deeper into that. In what ways can yoga support us emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically?
Wow, I think that's a beautiful question, Anandi. We often think about the support system that we need as a human being. Now, as a human being, we need a physical support system, and the best physical support system is our body, made up of our musculature and our bones and all the organs, which in yoga we call the Annamaya Kosha. Now, when we are doing the yoga practices, we are starting to connect in a very deep way with our physical body. Many people they walk around and they don't have any awareness of where the hands are, where the feet are, or what they are doing. In a yoga session, when we do the practices, especially the physical techniques such as the asanas, you are connecting with the body in a very deep way. So, that connection with the body, you know where your toes are, you know where your knees are, you know what your lumbar, vertebrae feel like, and that gives you that physical connection. When you do the pranayama, you start to connect to the prana and the emotions, and you start to have a sense of emotional contentment, emotional balance, which today is called emotional quotient. Through the contemplative practices of dharana, dhyana, and before that, we have to always remember pratyahara, you start to go deeper into who you are in that psychological space. And through the dhyana and the higher inner aspects of yoga, you start to connect with that spirit that you are. Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi starts to become a reality. So every technique in yoga gives us scope to know ourselves better. And that is what friendship is. Friendship is when you know each other very well. So yoga, through its techniques, through its philosophy, through its psychology, through its spirituality, starts to enable us to know ourselves physically, physiologically, psychologically, intellectually, and spiritually. So I think all dimensions are definitely, developed extremely well through living yoga as a way of life. And I think this is where I was, immediately thought about it that so many people think about just the externalized aspect, the postures. And especially in today's, Instagram world, everybody is looking for that Insta yoga. So physical postures seem to capture our imagination. But in your opinion, Anandi, how can we move beyond this perception of yoga just being asana, and how can we develop this deeper relationship with it?
Absolutely, Guruji. Just like a best friend, yoga teaches us to listen to ourselves and it guides us. Now, I will again go back to answer your question a little bit into my practice. The present day Instagrammable yoga that we see starts with asana practice. In my case, I actually started learning yoga in an ashram environment. So I did not start learning yoga with asanas. I started learning yoga through my breath, through pranayama, what we call pranayama. And then it was much later on when I came into advanced asana practices, when I, traveled to South. And I was, of course, very much caught by it because, what we are doing, as you always say, a somatopsychic effect. We are using the body to work on the mind through our asana practice. Now, the moment we start the practice, of course, what is important is the posture, the alignment, the correct use of our joints and muscles, not to over expend our energy in the practice, but to use that right muscle, the right amount of energy so that you feel that sthira sukha of asana. Now, in my practice, I realize that asana consists of three main components. Definitely, the first one is your alignment. The second most important component is your breath. When you are getting into a posture, what is your breath? Is it an inhalation? Is it a hold? Is it an exhalation? When you are holding the posture, the third part comes in is what is your drishti? What we talk about dharana. So, where are you focusing your attention? So, when we do the asana as a wholesome practice of all these three, we slowly go beyond body consciousness, and slowly the asana becomes a meditation, becomes a dhyana. And that is, I think, where you realize as Patanjali says, the duality, tato dvanda anabhighataha, that breaks. And what you experience is that ananta samapatti that you just now said, tattvamasi, thou art that, aham brahmasmi.
I just love listening to you because the way you brought that in tato dvandva anabhigataha, and of course the concept of ananta samapatibhyam, which so beautifully Patanjali gives us. Because if you look at Patanjali's teachings, he starts off by defining asana as sthira sukham asanam. He then tells us how to get into it. Prayatna shaitilya ananta samapatibhyam and tato dvandva anabhigataha. And what we start to understand is that this is not just limited to the body, as you rightly pointed out, through the breath, through the mindfulness. And this is why the mindfulness that asana practice, a good asana practice, brings great mindfulness. And when it is coupled with breath awareness, or what can be called a prana dharana, and that yoga drishti, it becomes a wholesome package that transforms the individual. So beautifully explained by you. I really love that.
Thank you, Guruji. The next, topic that I would like to discuss is in the present day, we see that yoga has been, brought down to a 1 hour or a 45-minute practice. So it is mainly a protocol of asanas, pranayama, then a bit of relaxation. And that is what a yoga is all about. Does it really fit in, or what would you say?
The 60 minutes on the mat is a great idea because I think we all need it. The time spent on the mat is well worth it. But yoga shouldn't be limited to the mat only. So, what we learn on the mat should be carried into the other 23 hours of the day. Otherwise, it is not yoga. Because yoga is to be lived 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for your whole lifetime. But what we learn on the mat is essential. There are many people who think that you don't need the physical practice, and it starts to become what I call intellectual gymnastics in the name of spirituality. And is it this or is it that, and that is this or this is that, and they get so confused about it because they have never tried to touch their own toes. Now, when you get on the mat and you touch your toes, you are dealing with something that is very real. It becomes an embodied experience. So, the practice on the mat makes the philosophy, the psychology, the spirituality of yoga something that becomes embodied. It becomes a lived experience. And then, when you start to take the lessons learned on the mat into the 23 hours of the mat, you start to truly live yoga. Because who's a yogi? Not just someone who stands on the head and then, goes out and kills people. That's not a yogi. They can do a perfect Shirsasana and then kill people or steal from people. No, it is someone whose practice has transformed them, evolved them as a better human being so that wherever they are in life, they are manifesting the best of humanity. And this is why what you learn on the way down in the yoga mat should be applied on the way down in life. On the way up on the yoga mat becomes on the way up in life. Those days that you have a great practice, bring it into your day to day life. Those days that you have been falling down and hurting yourself, learn from it, bring it into your life. So, everything that you learn in your personal sadhana is not meant to stay on the mat, it is supposed to come into your day to day life. Change your perspective. You stand on your head, why? To look at the world in a different way. You do a practice like Brahma Mudra, why? To bring in multiple perspectives from different directions. Ano Badra Kritavo Yanto Vishwataha. Let noble thoughts come to me from all directions, not just when I'm on the mat. And I think this is why our responsibility as people who are spreading the message of yoga is to let the young people, those beautiful souls who come to yoga with great hope for humanity, that let them know it is not just a physical practice and your 60 minutes on the mat is great, but please use those lessons in the rest of your life. Now, as I talk about this, I am also just brought into a reflection. What are some practices that you, Anandi, feel can help develop this type of feeling? What are some hands on? Because otherwise, our young audience will say, you are talking about all this mumbo jumbo. What can I do? So, what would you have to share to all of our listeners?
So, I'll go a little deep into this to understand what we can do. Because, as human beings, we actually have three areas in which we can do. One is, our speech, what we say. One is our body movement, what we want to do with our body. And the third and the most important part is that, which is our mind, what we think, our thoughts. And yoga is about, as we all know, yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Patanjali has clearly said, that the body is subordinate, the mind is the master, the mind is the king. So learn to master your mind. Now the question comes, see, as individuals, what do we want? If I ask you, you will go back, I want this, I want this, I want this, but ultimately, we all want to be happy. Our rishis and munis realized that thousands of years ago, our scriptures say, Param Sukha Prapti Dukkha Nivritti. So the purpose of yoga was to remove the suffering from our lives. Now, we all know that you cannot really remove suffering. So, what does yoga offer us? Yoga offers us that technique to master the mind because mind is what, experiences happiness, joy, and suffering. So, it teaches us how to transcend that suffering and keep the mind in a balanced state. The second thing I want to talk about is what is the meaning of the term yoga? Yuj, to unite. And our scriptures tell us life that we are living is because of duality. So at every point of time, we are trying to unite and bring balance. Why duality? See, we have a night, we have a day, we have a white, we have a black, we have summer, we have winter. Everything comes in a cyclical pattern. And yoga teaches us to bring a balance between these two opposites. The simplest technique, which I always, teach my students, and most of my students, as you know, are young boys and girls. I always tell them that the moment you feel disturbed and distracted, just try to introvert your mind inwards. Wherever you are, just shut up. Close your ears, close your eyes, close your mouth, introvert your mind, and just focus on your breath. Sometimes I also say that start counting. Say a count of 1 to 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You exhale. Do this 10 times and then go back to the situation. 90% of the time, the situation has moved. You are out of it. If you are still caught up in it, at least you have a clear mind to handle the situation. So that will be my simplest advice to everyone.
I just love that. It is so beautifully said and so true. In fact, Param Puja Ammaji used to teach us in our children and youth class at Yoganjali. She used to teach a very important lesson. She said that you should learn to sit straight. Then she said, be quiet and then listen. And this used to be a beautiful message where she would say, sit straight, be quiet, listen. Sit straight, be quiet, listen. Sit straight, be quiet, listen. Amazing teaching, because if you just sit straight, you have established yourself in where you are. When you keep quiet, everything can start to settle. And in that moment where you listen, as you rightly put it, you hear the answer to what you need at that moment. Such a beautiful teaching you have shared. Really, really, I was enjoying listening to you on that.
Thank you so much. You always say that you should, transcend the doing of the yoga and start living in the being of the yoga. Can you elaborate what you mean by that?
Well, you see, we as a human being are supposed to be, but we are always caught in doing. When we meet each other, the first thing we ask people is like, how do you do? And so, how do you do becomes our first question. The next is, what do you do? And then, of course, the next one is, why do you do? How do you do? What do you do? When do you do? Why do you do? We are caught up in doing, and we have forgotten that as a human being, we are to be. That is the asi, to be. That is the root of asana. And this is why when we ask ourselves the question, who am I? Nan ya, koham. The final answer will only come when we are settled in ourselves. Now, many people want to be, but they have not done anything to be. So the first part is you have to do something and then you have to let go. This is why Patanjali says abhyasa, which is doing, has to precede vairagya, which is letting go, so that you come into the state of being. So it is like you want to get your car out of the garage. You first have to press accelerator, get the car moving, but then before it goes and hits the neighbor's wall, you have to put the brake, and then the interplay between the accelerator and the brake gives you a beautiful journey. The accelerator is the doing. When you do and then you let go, letting go is the brake. So do, let go, be. Do, let go, be. Do, let go, be. And this is why that process of doing what Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, Nishkama Karma. Do it for the sake of doing it, and automatically the fruits will manifest. And this is why being lazy is not being. Many people say, why do I need to do? I am already there. I am being. No, you are lazy. Get out of bed. First do what you need to do. And then you will earn the right to be.
Wonderful. As yoga practitioners, the first thing we learn is not to be lazy because, we start working on the mind, and even if the body, doesn't respond, the mind still becomes so active. It's like, come on, get up and do something. And honestly, in this process of doing, we see a lot of youth injuring themselves, trying to, try a lot of advanced postures. Do you think it is necessary to get into such advanced postures to just understand or just to practice yoga, or is it just, beyond what is needed to practice or just be in yoga?
You see, I think advanced asanas are a very good challenge for the young people. So, young people want to be challenged physically, emotionally. They want that challenge. And the advanced asanas give us a scope to fulfill the need of the youth. And this is why Yogasana sport gives them that scope. But one has to be very careful, because when you are overdoing anything, there will be the pitfalls, there will be the chances for injury, there will be chances for harm. And the first rule of yoga is do no harm, ahimsa. So, though advanced asanas are an amazing tool for the young people, I believe that it should be approached carefully with proper guidance. But it becomes a tool for them to then go deeper into their own self. And why not? If the young people can do it, let them do it. But it is not essential. You do not have to stand on your hands to live yoga. But by standing on your hands, you learn to balance in a different way, physically, physiologically, and mentally. And that balance that you have learned can be carried into your life and you become a balanced human being. So if it does that, it is very useful. But if it just becomes, hey, look at me and I can stand on one hand and you cannot do it, and because I can stand on one hand, I am a better yogi than you, it becomes an ego trip, which is what we see in the digital world today, where it is my Instagram asana is better than yours. That competitiveness is not yoga. But if you say, as our young people do in Yogasana sport, I am doing this asana, can you help me get into it deeper? Can you help me find balance? And you find competitors, athletes who are competing with each other, but they are actually practicing together and helping each other. What a beautiful lesson. You can compete without being an enemy. You can compete without hating the other person. You can compete and still be friends. I think this is a beautiful message that we can get through these type of activities. So though competitive asanas, advanced asanas are not essential, I feel they are an excellent tool for the young people to get into yoga. And once they get into yoga, yoga will take over. And then they start to live yoga.
Absolutely. The understanding of healthy competition versus a ego trip, especially amongst the youth, because they are not matured enough most of the times to understand. And that is where, I feel Patanjali has spoken about the yamas and the niyamas. I personally look at yama as, right living with everything around you, what today we are calling eco-friendly. And I look at niyamas as, right living with yourself. So, Guruji, I would like to ask you, how does yoga help us in our interpersonal relationships with others and our intrapersonal relationship with the self?
That's a beautiful question, Anandi. Very, very beautiful question. Thank you for asking it. There are two parts of relationship. One is the one we have with others, and one we have with ourselves. Now, if we are not at ease with ourselves, we can never be at ease with anybody. And this is why Ammaji used to say, you have to find that place where it is neither too hot, neither too cold, and that place is within us. We have to find that sukhasthana within ourselves, and that is what yoga gives us, because you start to know yourself better. You know your physical capacity. You start to know your breath capacity. You know whether you can sit and contemplate and go into a contemplative, meditative state or not. Now you get to know yourself better. The yama and niyama start to become beautiful yardsticks for us to know whether we are progressing on this path. Am I truly growing in non-violentness? Am I growing in the capacity to be truthful? Can I be content without wanting that which doesn't belong to me? These are beautiful tools to know yourself. And the more you start to live these tools, the yama niyama, you start to become at ease with yourself, you radiate that ease, and then you will start to deal with others, because you will, as often we discuss about Ramana Maharishi, saying there are no others. Someone once came to Ramana and said, Ramana, how to deal with others? And Ramana said, there is no other. See, when you can start to see that, the Guru Stotra says it, Madatma Sarva Bhutatma. When you start to realize the same Atma in me is in everyone, you start to relate with others in a much better way. And one of the yogic principles is treat others as you would like to be treated until you realize there are no others. And I think this is the way to live, where these concepts are not just up in the head. These are not just in textbooks. These are not just on internet websites. These start to become an embodied, lived experience. And at that moment, suddenly, you connect with yourself better. You connect with others better. And that human beingness starts to radiate in such a beautiful way. But now that you asked me a question, I have to ask you one, because I have been enjoying listening to your wisdom that has come from so many decades. And especially with the young people, how can we give them the teachings of yoga, the practices of yoga in a natural way rather than in an old fashioned, forced way that here you have to do it because it's in the syllabus. You have to do it because that is what the neighbors' kids are doing. How can we make it natural? How can we bring life into it for the young people?
Guruji, this is where I would like to bring in a little bit of my Indian knowledge system's understanding. So, when we see this approach of education in yoga as well as in academics, because both of us are from the academic background, this is a concept which has come in, since the British started ruling us. And it was a calculated, planned approach. We all know that. If we go back a little before and we see how education was imparted in our country, it was never a forced system like this. It was always the young kid was left at the Gurukula with the Guru, and the kid was allowed to pick and choose things of their choice. We see examples in the Ramayana, we see examples in the Mahabharata, and the Guru, looking at the gunas, the qualities of the disciple, decided which stream this person should be. Slowly, what happened is we got into this system, the caste system. That was not the purpose of it, right? Now, when we are, coming at a place today where India is the third largest economy, vying to, go higher up, the fastest growing economy, the highest youth population, with a lot of promises. It is very important that we let the students, we let the youth be instead of forcing them. And that's beautiful when we look at the way our, the education system is changing. During our times, I was very good in mathematics, but I was terrible in chemistry, physics, and all. So I had to choose a stream to do mathematics along with something which fitted in. Today, somebody who has knack for mathematics can choose a stream along with it, can choose music along with it. That is very important. We need to give space to our students, our youth, so that they for themselves can understand what they want to do, what they like to do. And of course, as teachers, as gurus, we should be at the background like our, Gurukula system, focusing on what is the quality in that student and guiding the student. We don't need to give them a rigid, regular, subah utho and do this. That is a very wrong approach to yoga, I feel. Yoga was never about, getting up and doing your asana 1 hour in the morning or evening. Even at night, people are practicing asanas. And I'm like, you want to energize your body in the morning. Evening is a time for relaxation so that you have a great sleep. So once these concepts become clear to us, yoga by itself starts speaking to us, starts guiding us. And that is where, I want to go back to you because as young people, sometimes we don't have the wisdom to understand what is it? Am I right? Am I wrong? There's always that confusion as an adolescent. So, does yoga really speak to you? Does it really guide you? If yes, how?
Absolutely. Yoga will always speak to us. Yoga is always speaking to us. It is always guiding us because yoga is like Mother Nature. Yoga is like the universe. The universe is constantly communicating with us. Nature is constantly communicating. But because our heads are filled with noise, we cannot hear the voice. And this is why yoga's chitta vritti nirodha is so important because as long as the chitta vritti noise is going on, the chitta chatter, as Ammaji used to call it, the chattering is going on, you don't hear the voice. And that is why one of the most important aspects of yoga is to find that silence. That silence. That is where you hear the voice. And this voice comes from a beautiful place, heartful mind and the mindful heart, where that voice of yoga as the Guru, in what is called the Guru Hridaya Manas, it starts to speak to us. It's a beautiful voice, but it is very calm, it is very soft, it is very gentle. So it is not shouting. Noise shouts, but the voice is just communicating. And the moment we start to slow our breath down, the moment we start to find stability of the body, the moment our emotions start to settle down and stop being volatile, suddenly we have the clarity. And at that point, that voice is heard. As Patanjali says, when the chitta vritti nirodha, the cessation of the chitta vritti occurs, tada drashtu swarupe avasthanam. At that point, you are established in yourself. At that point, when that noise ceases, the voice will be heard. And once that voice starts communicating with you, and once you start perceiving it and receiving it, it will become louder and louder and clearer and clearer. And then after that, all you have to do is be still and it will speak to you.
Lovely, wonderful. Such a beautiful advice, wisdom, words of wisdom flowing from the Guru to the Shishya. I'm truly blessed to be, having this talk with you. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers who will be watching this will also find those, pearls of wisdom which will help them, which will guide them. At Sannidhi, we are not only, looking at guiding advanced practitioners, we are also looking at freshers. A lot of time, in my own struggle, I remember once I wanted to get into yoga. I didn't know where to go, to whom to go, how to start. And in my so many years of teaching, I have come across young boys and girls who always come and say, we want to practice, but we don't know where to start. And that is exactly, where we at Sannidhi want to, fill that gap and give that space to young, and by young, I don't mean young by age. I mean people who are beginners. 80-year-old is also young in yoga, and our Hatha Yoga Pradipika states that as long as you can breathe, you can practice yoga. So Sannidhi is a place for everyone. Before we close, Guruji, one last question that I would like to ask you is, if you were to give one piece of advice in today's world, what would that be? How to make yoga your friend?
Well, I would share my father, Swami Geetananda Giri's teachings And his teachings were very clear. Do it now. Din, din, din. D-I-N, D-I-N. Do it now, do it now, do it now. I think the most important thing is don't procrastinate. Don't think it's going to happen tomorrow, next month, next year, next decade, next lifetime. We have been blessed with a human existence where we have the power of choice. So start to choose what you are going to do. Make healthy choices. Your healthy choices will make you healthy. Make happy choices. They will make you happy. And through that, you will start to find that connection with yoga. Because yoga is waiting to have that relationship with you. It is like the ocean, but you have to dive into that ocean. To dive in that ocean, there's not a better time than the present moment. So just do it or do it now. Din, din, din.
Going by your advice, din, I would like to close by, because yoga is an experiential system. So let us close by a small, practice wherein, I would invite everyone to sit up nice and tall. Maintain the natural curvature of your spine. Lift the chest up so that, the lungs, which is like the sponge we all know, get space to breathe. Keep the shoulders relaxed. If possible, gently close your eyes and keep a gentle smile on the face. Let us now slowly try to introvert our awareness inwards and just become aware of our natural, normal breathing process. Let us just focus on the next 5 breaths, 5 inhalations and 5 exhalations. Nothing more, nothing less. Just breathing with awareness, with mindfulness. I will give a small count to facilitate people who are new to the practice. So at the count of one, we start inhaling. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Second round, let's inhale together. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Exhaling together. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let us do this one last round. Inhaling together at the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Exhaling together. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just take a moment here and just try to observe the change that you are experiencing just by this conscious breathing. Take your time, gently open your eyes. And here I would request Guruji to, end our talk today with a nice, beautiful chant.
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामय सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ लोकाः समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु सर्वे जनाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति 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 ॐ
Namaste, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you so much.